Hello, Village. Welcome to Rooted Online. We're going to do something a little different today. It's Good Friday, and so we're going to skip 1 Peter today, and we're going to think about Good Friday a little bit. I'd like to wish you a happy Good Friday, but really that doesn't make sense. The word happy doesn't fit Good Friday for me. So I'd rather wish you a thoughtful Good Friday. One where there's some mixed emotions. Certainly there's happiness and why we call it Good Friday, but also the weight of today is something I want to think about. You see, today is the day where Jesus was crucified in Passion Week 2,000 years ago. And so our hearts should be burdened for the Lord and Savior that we love who was crucified in our place. I'd like to read from Isaiah 53 today, starting at verse 3 and going through verse 6. And listen to this description of what Jesus would go through. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And as one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace. And with his wounds we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. See, in that passage, we have two distinct emotions. One is to feel the weight of sin, to feel the weight of the penalty of sin. When we read words like he was despised and rejected, a man of sorrows, when we read words like he bore our grief, he carried our sorrows. That means all of our grief, all of our sorrows, all of the junk of this world that you and I could even think of experiencing, he bore at that moment on the cross. He was pierced for our transgressions. I think of the sword, the spear rather, going into his side and the blood and water coming out. I think of the nails going into his hands and his feet. He was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed. And so those words should help us understand how serious today is. But at the same time, they help us understand the grace of God and the love of God. You see, if we never understand the depth of the punishment for sin, if we never understand the seriousness of our sin, I think we take lightly the grace of God. We take lightly the love of God, and Good Friday is just another holiday that we happen to have off school or work. But no, Good Friday was the day that a good and loving and caring God stepped in and took the weight of sin and sorrow that you and I were supposed to bear. You know, on today and this weekend, you'll see a lot of pictures of crosses and 3 crosses and depicting the crucifixion scene. But try something this week. Try picturing your face on the person in the middle. I know we try to paint pictures of Jesus there, but try to picture you at that point, because he was carrying our grief and our sorrow. I'm amazed in this passage how many times that Isaiah mentions that. Our griefs, our sorrows, our transgressions, our iniquities. And so that should have been us. And Jesus was there in our place, paying the penalty for sin, canceling the debt of sin. But it's mixed emotions because it is Good Friday, and it's mentioned here, it was this that brought us peace. It is by his wounds that we are healed. And it's speaking of a spiritual healing there. What we really needed was to have an answer to our sin. And so it's good because we can celebrate that there's peace now with God. There's reconciled relationship with God. Our sin has been paid for. It has no power over us anymore. And so come to today. Think about today seriously, somberly a little bit. Think about it that the depth of our sin put Jesus there, and the depth of the punishment and his separation at that moment was huge. But also then think of the amazing love and grace of God and why we can call this day good, even though terrible things happen on this day. It is because of today we can have salvation. It is because of today that we know God is pursuing us and wants to adopt us as his children. So happy Good Friday, or rather thoughtful Good Friday. May we realize the depth of what God has done for us.